So when you were watching it earlier, it already kind of like alluded to mind control and just they were bringing like people into the facility to control their minds. And then as you're like exploring the lab further, you see like all the scientists like crowd around this like observation window, and then you sneak on the inside of the observation window, and it's this like giant like amalgamation of like human bodies. It's like this like fucking large mass of bodies, and then it absorbs you, and then you take on the consciousness of this like super consciousness of like this like writhing mass of bodies, and then you try to escape the facility. But the way it ends, I feel like it was like all a setup. I feel like the people
were harvesting you instead.
Well, no, it was just a test. Like they knew my movements at the end, because like there's this one scene where
this was one line.
There's a scene where you fall into this, basically like this, like it almost looks like a movie set, and then the game ends with you falling through pretty much an exact replica of that movie set, but it's on the outside rather than the inside.
Isn't that kind of like Westworld? A little bit?
A little bit,
yeah. Well, thanks for telling me.
You're welcome. It was fire.
Good morning. It's so liminal outside. I got up at 5. It is now 5:20. I've got my coffee going. I think I fell asleep around 1 a.m. So to give you some context as to how much I do not like feeling stressed about my writing, I would rather be up this early after sleeping so late than not.
I've got the cozy socks
and the coffee.
It's 6:30 and it's beautiful out.
It is 8:20 and I'm at 444 words. It is coming along slowly but surely. I'm super tired, so I'm gonna take a little break, maybe have some breakfast, and then come back to it. It is 9 o'clock and I am at 745 words. It is 9:20 a.m. I just had a light breakfast of yogurt with some honey, and then I chugged like another half cup of coffee, and then I'm sipping the rest. I do my best to be very present when I'm writing. I hate to just bang on the keyboard and type whatever comes to mind. Like I think that can be necessary for zero drafts or things like that, but in terms of when I'm writing, I like to try to piece my thoughts more intentionally than just flying with whatever words come out of my fingers. But today's segment is definitely going to be one that I review a little bit more carefully, either later today after I've had a nap or even tomorrow. I'm writing what I call a fugue segment, which is basically a more psychologically driven segment of the story. I think some writers write these kinds of segments, these fugue segments, really just like on the fly, stream of consciousness style. And if you are an established writer, I think that's easier to do because you've already had a lot of practice. But I think there's more crafting that actually goes on in these kinds of passages. So yes, I am very tired this morning, but I think my second cup of coffee is starting to kick in. And no, I'm not just typing away to get to this session done. I'm really sitting with it to craft it out with intention. I know I will be editing this novel when it is finished. I'm actually really looking forward to it, which is so surprising because I used to hate editing so much. I think this hatred has come from schooling, where I, in group projects, was the person who edited everything. So I kind of got really sick of it, especially in grad school, editing papers about business. Like, anyways, even though I know I'm gonna be editing this novel, I still write with intention. I think that's form in writing, and I think how you carry yourself in your writing sessions shows in your writing. There is this whole culture of like, get the words out and then worry about it later, and yes to that. For drafting, for brainstorming ideas, that's the context to be writing on the fly. But my philosophy when it comes to the actual writing session itself, like the first draft, is to show up in right posture, right form, and that is intention and attitude. And I think that is what is reflected as the quality of your writing. That said too, I think if you're more intentional about the messes you make, they're easier to clean up. And all it takes is just slowing it down a little bit to think before you write, just a little bit. Not too much so that you're paralyzed, but just a little bit. And the more you practice those kinds of reps, where you take a moment to just think a little about what you're doing and why, you're going to develop proficiency. I think all of us as readers, we recognize good writing, or what we perceive to be good writing for us. Yet as a writer, it can be so difficult to put to paper what we know and read to be good. How I liken this struggle is in the analogy of going to the gym and seeing someone just killing their workout. They look good, they look strong, they're moving weights. But if you've never gone to the gym before and you've never trained and you've never learned how to do those moves with correct form, when you go to do them, it's awkward. Likewise with reading versus writing. We read books and we know they're great and we like them, but then when it comes to the writing, it's like, oh my gosh, like what is going on here? I think it's a form factor. So learn the form and then the practice gets easier. That's my philosophy to writing. So for myself, especially on these really hard days, I am more conscientious to slow things down with what I'm doing. I go slow and I always, always, always finish. Personally, I have found these days where I do take that extra measure of slowness to be better days. It is 11:20 and I'm at 38,011 words. I have completed day 37 of my 90-day novel writing challenge.